shortly after the last participants left the unhinged meeting, Trump sent out the tweet with his explosive invitation. Before calling for a big protest in D.C. on January 6th, be there, will be wild.
I don't know that it occurred to me until this week that tweet was sent at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I just wanted to note that for those who didn't notice that at the bottom of the screen. Joining us now to start us off, Omarosa Monagle-Newman, a former senior Trump White House official and author of the very aptly titled, I should say, book Unhinged. So Omarosa, how much are you watching these hearings and what parts are standing out to you the most?
You know, I think that I, like so many Americans, are kind of glued to these hearings. It's really important for us to know what happened and how this unfolded. But I have to tell you, the fact that, someone is saying that this is the craziest meeting in Trump history, I'm sure that there have been many, but this is the one that has become public for people to really process how truly unhinged things were behind the scenes.
Well, take us inside these meetings. I've never been in a meeting with Donald Trump. You have. You know the president pretty well. I mean, do you think some of the actions that were described in this meeting sound true to you? Do they ring true? I mean, it's being described as crazy, but I actually think that obscures a bit how serious, what was discussed in the meeting is. I mean, does it ring true?
Oh, certainly. There's a certain time frame for Donald that we call the bewitching hour. The bewitching hour was between 11 p.m. and 4 in the morning when Donald Trump would tweet his craziest tweets and make the most wild decisions for the administration. We called it the bewitching hour, and this happened to fall in that time frame around 1 in the morning, where Donald he was just not all there. And when he wanted something and he was determined to get his way, there was nothing he would stop at to get it. And so even if advisors were saying, this isn't a good idea, this in fact will lead to violence, this is against the law, during that time frame, Donald's going to do what Donald wants to do.
So now you just validated all the lack of sleep I was getting during the Trump administration, thinking that he was going to do something drastic while I was sleeping. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Makes me feel a little bit more sane in this particular moment. So Liz Cheney, to her credit, she kept going back to a point that I think is important, and you can help us understand this. Going back to this phrase of willful ignorance about Donald Trump and his knowledge about whether or not he won or lost this election. So much analysis has gone into answering the question of whether he really believed he lost, whether he really knew the truth, and how he creates these alternate realities. I mean, how does he stay in this delusion when everyone is telling him the opposite of what he's saying? I mean, you've been there when this is happening.
It's much more dangerous than that. I mean, Donald thinks that he is clever. He thinks that he can, avoid any consequences by conveniently forgetting information that is shared, whether it's factual or not, being conveniently not acknowledging things that have been presented to him in memo form, reports, binders. It doesn't matter. He really does think that he's the smartest person in the room. And when it's convenient, he'll say he just doesn't remember or just doesn't know. And so I wouldn't call it willful ignorance. He is quite clever in how he approaches these things to avoid any kind of appearance of impropriety.
It's an important point. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about since yesterday is that even calling the meeting sort of a meeting of the crazies, if you will, as it's been described, it obscures the seriousness, as I mentioned, of what they were actually discussing. We're talking about maybe getting the military to do martial law or have Sidney Powell, seize voting machines. We're talking about some serious stuff here, overturning a Democratic election. I mean, what do you call that? I mean, how do you view this meeting in the context of what they were trying to do?
I call it conspiracy, and I call it criminal activity. I also want to point out, they were talking about just automatically giving her a security clearance without the appropriate background check. That's a red flag for me, considering that it took, 7-8 months for me to get the level of security clearance that she would have just been presented with the snap of a finger. That's quite alarming because of the information that she would have had access to and would have been able to share within that particular classification. So that was one of the big red flags for me. But I think what also people should realize, you could call them crazy, but this still was a very dangerous scheme. And it is a scheme that I believe somebody should be held account for.
So you had a pretty contentious relationship with another Trump campaign official at the time, Katrina Pearson. There was an exchange of text messages between her and Brad Parscale that they showed at the hearing. Let's take a look at that.
This is about Trump pushing for uncertainty in our country, a sitting president asking for civil war. And then when he said, "This week I feel guilty for helping him win," Katrina Pearson responded, "You did what you felt right at the time, and therefore it was right." Mr. Parscale added, "Yeah, but a woman is dead. And yeah, if I was Trump and I knew my rhetoric killed someone." When Ms. Pearson replied, "It wasn't the rhetoric," Mr. Parscale said, "Katrina, yes, it was."
Why do so many Trump loyalists do this, where they say something completely different in the public and then we see their messages and they're saying the same thing the rest of us are? What makes people so loyal to him in the first place?
Well, first of all, Katrina was completely complicit. I mean, a couple of months ago, when I talked about her role that had yet become public in all of the organizing, she threatened to sue me. So now here's all of the tweets and the text and messages that actually show that she was, in fact, a very key organizer and key to actually bringing the scheme together. It's just it's embarrassing for her, because she was going to stand by Donald no matter what he said or did, no matter how many people died or were injured, or even the impact, the damage that was done to our democracy. And that is very telling. He has always utilized her first as his spokesperson for the campaign, and then to kind of maneuver behind the scenes even while we were in the White House. And so it's not surprising to me that she is mixed up in the middle of this criminal conspiracy.
What a time. But thank you so much, Omarosa Manigault-Newman, for helping us understand it all. I mean, I think your insights, because you've been there in the meetings. I can't say that I've been in a meeting with Donald Trump. You have. So it's helpful in unpacking all of these developments. Please stay safe. Thanks again. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.